Hello, everyone. Welcome on What on Earth is Happening in India, a series of videos we make on the journeys we made in the past. We went to several countries and received beautiful messages there, and we try to translate them to these times now.
Yeah, and this time we will take you to the Himalayas, the abode of the gods. That enormous mountain range where the yogis went through the ages to get information. You have the great stories, for instance, of the Ramayana, of the Mahabharata, but also of the masters of Shambhala and the warriors of Shambhala, who are a kind of masters waiting or being behind the scenes and looking at what's happening on the world today. And I think that's really interesting to see what is their message. What is the message of the Himalayas for today's world?
In fact, we were asked, we had a call to go to the Himalayas, to Ladakh, and to be there precisely on Shivaratri. Shivaratri is the day, or rather the night of Shiva, and it's a different date every year. And in 2019, when we were asked to go, it was on the 4th of March. So we were asked to be there in Ladakh on the 4th of March to celebrate Shiva. Shiva is one of the gods, the main gods of India. In fact, there is a pantheon of 3 gods like Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and Shiva is known to be the destroyer. And all these gods have a wife, a goddess. It's Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Shiva has a 3-fold goddess. He as a wife, it's Parvati, or in a worse or harsher form, Durga, or in the extreme form, she's called Kali.
Yeah, and Shiva is very much connected to the Himalayas, especially to the Mount Kailash, which is like a big Shiva lingam. It's an enormous mountain. I think that whole notion of creation and destruction or transformation, it's very much about transformation. That is really so important in these times because we're living in a time of transformation. So you could say we're living in a time of Shiva and Kali, who destroy the old world that needs to be destroyed. Otherwise, there can be no renewal. Mm-hmm. And I was once reading this beautiful trilogy on the Master of Maluha, which is about Shiva. It's written by an Indian author. And he wrote about the life of Shiva as if he really lived. And I thought it was an amazing book, 3 books, about an ancient time where they also were in that difficult period of change, and they had to let go of some things in their society, some luxuries, some things of the gods to survive, actually. Mm. So we were called, as Anne said, we were called to go to the Himalayas on Shivaratri, and we left with a group of 5 people, good friends, mm-hmm. And we were pretty uncertain about the whole journey because it brought up a lot of fear before we left.
Yeah. So it was very courageous of all of us and our friends to start and to get off on the journey.
Yeah.
So we had to surpass many fears for that. But another thing I wanted to say is that the calling also asked that we would start to understand that we have a divine nature. Mm. And so it is very interesting. It's a strange thing, you know, we have a divine nature. How should we understand this? And so it's interesting to go to those cultures where they still have these divine stories. And where there is still this connection between divine beings that maybe were historical, maybe not, and that have human capacities, but also divine capacities. So to try to find out how they were in these times. So we go to India also to learn about our own divine nature and how to understand it.
Yeah, and they have, of course, an unbroken tradition of this high civilization, of this high wisdom, the Vedas, go back thousands of years, and there's so much knowledge that we have forgotten in the West, and we also go to the Himalayas, to India, to sit at the feet of the mountains, to sit at the feet of the masters, to learn and to receive that wisdom beyond time and age, actually.
Yeah. And of course, India is a very big country, and we were specifically in the north. So we landed in Delhi. That's where we landed.
And we just talked about gods and the mountains, but we started in the mud, in the dirt of Delhi. It was really busy. Well, people who have been in India, they know how it is. It's overwhelming. All the colors, the smells, the dirt,
the noises,
many people.
Magical also.
Yeah.
Cows on the
crazy.
street. Yeah, crazy, mainly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, in fact, a bit like the first chakra. That's how we experienced it. So the base.
And when we were in our hotel, we made a little walk through the city, and we found this very old tree temple for Durga and Kali. And we felt we reached that first chakra. We came there, we came in the country, and we had to connect first with the ground, with the mundane.
With the normal life.
And
all its difficult parts. And one thing we forgot, we didn't have our luggage when we arrived. So we arrived at the airport, and there was our luggage was still in Brussels, or I don't know where we came from, Amsterdam or Brussels. So we arrived without luggage, which is quite symbolical as well. So we arrived without baggage, we had to let go. If you go on a kind of mystical journey, first you let go of things that you no longer need. And well, quite literally, we had to leave our luggage behind when we arrived. So it was a bit discomforting.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it set the tone for the first stay.
Definitely. And so here's this small temple, and you see thousands of these temples in India, because everybody is dedicated in her or his way towards a god or a goddess or a tree. And so spirituality is immersed in the whole culture. That's changing, of course, these days. But till now, it used to be that way, that on every corner of a street, you can devote yourself to the divine. And here you see the beautiful image of Durga. Durga is a kind of Kali. She's the goddess of truth. And she has a sword. She cuts away all the illusions, all the things that are not true. And I think that's also an energy that we very much need these days. We need to come back to this very clear sword of truth, because there's so much chatter and so many opinions and theories and illusions. We're living in a world of illusions at the moment. If you look at the news, you can feel it, because you feel there's not a lot of truth. And especially, and we're going to talk about this more in this movie, don't talk about war at the moment. And there are many people saying, oh, there's a war coming, the Russians are coming, the blah, 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 blah. And you don't know if that's really true or not, or if it's just a cooked up story. So this is one example, actually, of...
Kali is the goddess of the war, in fact. She's the fearful goddess. She's the one that kills the enemies, in fact. The inner enemies, of course, but that's also a whole story. But you can see on the picture, you can see her at the right side of Durga. Durga is in red and the Kali is more in black. And Durga is the more softer version. She has this lion with her, and Kali has corpses with her. So she is really the ugly one, but the fearful one. And I had in my several journeys to India, I had developed a very beautiful connection with Kali, because she's not only the one that destroys illusions, destroys the enemies inside of you. She's also a big protectress Also, I experienced her. So when you go on a difficult journey, you often ask Kali protection.
Yeah.
And so in this very beginning of our journey, in the first base, in the first chakra, let's say, we went there and we asked for protection. I have experienced myself that what she asks of you is to be very alert, so very there, responsible for your own deeds, but very trusting and in your heart. And if you stay in your own heart, in your own truth, and in your own alertness, and in connection with her, she's so present and she's so interacting with your really day life. So she really helps you in the travelings. That's a long story I could tell here, but
I think we're both very much connected to both Kali and Shiva.
Yeah,
they're very close to our own nature in a way.
Yeah.
And you kind of create a relationship with those gods and goddesses. And what I like so much about Hinduism is that you have so many of them, so you can choose. There's not one god in heaven, or there's one book. There's many stories, many gods and goddesses, and it gives a very colorful, creative society. Actually, very rich.
All aspects of yourself, your human nature and your divine nature. Interesting, very interesting. Yeah. And all kind of puppets. It has very strange imaginaries here in India. It makes it very colorful.
So after we came to this first station on our journey, the first step of initiation, we went on our way by train. Trains are something amazing in India. They go everywhere. They go slow most of the time. They're sometimes dirty, sometimes not.
Yeah, but many people.
It's quite an adventure.
It can be very crowded. You get chai everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's an adventure on itself.
It's an adventure on itself. And some people love India, some people hate it. I think we're in the category of loving it.
Yeah.
I feel very much at home in that crazy chaos. So we went with the train from New Delhi to AMRITSAR.
Yeah. And AMRITSAR, we could call, or we experienced as the second chakra also because of the water, because of the sensuality. It was a beautiful city.
Yeah.
Beautiful, colorful city. And Amrit is also the nectar of the gods.
Yeah.
And it felt a bit like that.
Yeah,
it felt like we received beauty and colors, and especially we went to that golden temple.
The golden temple, yeah.
Yeah, in the midst of the city. Yeah.
Yeah, and what is so special is it's been built by the Sikhs. So here you see an image of the Sikh people. That's a specific religion, very evolved, very beautiful. And what they did is they built this temple in this lake and a whole gallery around it. And the gallery has 4 entrances, and the 4 entrances are for the 4 big religions in India. So that's Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and Jainism, I think. I'm not really sure. Jainism or Islam. Or maybe not Islam. I think they had a portal also towards the Islam.
Yeah.
So they are really saying we need all these religions because they are all coming towards the central thing, the central temple, the golden temple. So they have this, I like that sort of consciousness that they include everybody.
That's in fact also a theme we met during our traveling, that it was about joining the different aspects of humanity, of religions, that everyone should have to work together. And yeah, there was in this golden temple, we spent time there, of course, we went to meditate there, and we all had different experiences. I had a very strong connection there to a deeper rage inside myself. I remember just by entering the site, the rage came upon me. So it was really connected to the story there. And it linked me to the older times, very old times of the Taurus era. even. We moved through several eras in time. You have the Taurus era and afterwards the Aries. And Taurus is much more feminine, and Aries is where the patriarchy came in, and also the idea of individualism, of strife, of war. And I could very much feel that we had to dig up the old Venus, the power of Venus, the power of the feminine, just to overrule the areas, you know, the real, the fight into men. And the theme that came up to me was to take out war of men. And we didn't know at that time that it would be a subject during our journey.
Well, actually, it was already happening because there was war talk in India between Pakistan and India. And the thing is, Amritsar is on the border of Pakistan. So we went closer to the enemy from the Indian side. And so we were already a bit into the story of like, there's a war cooking, but nothing happened.
Nothing happened yet. So yeah, indeed. But the theme was there, and also because in the place the Sikh are there to represent the union of people.
Yeah.
And the English came.
Yeah.
Of course, in India, and they divided the people there.
Yeah.
And that's how Pakistan came about.
Yeah.
And that there was this division between in an area that used to be united.
Yeah.
So we could feel that very much there.
If you've ever seen the movie of Gandhi, you will understand so much about these concepts. Like Gandhi was fighting to free India from the English colonial empire. But the price for that was the division between Islam and Hinduism. And that war is still going on. Still, the Hindus want to destroy the Muslims and the other way around. And during our time, we just walked right into this war, actually.
And we walked right into that theme of the two, of the unification mother, the unification theme, and the mother wanting to unite, and then the masculine theme of wanting to divide. So it's very much, it was very much present there. And Amritsar is also very much connected to a city in Pakistan, Lahore.
Lahore, yeah.
And in Lahore, there used to be an old mother temple, and we connected to that one as well, and could also feel how this old feminine that is still really enraged about the fact that everything has been divided should be also transformed into the new feminine. Yeah. So the dark and angry feminine should be transformed into the Christed feminine, the white. So all these themes visited us in Amritsar.
Yeah. Now, Amritsar is also well known for something else. One of the ancient stories is the Ramayana, and it's written in Amritsar by a person, Valmiki, I think. Now you have to know that Amritsar and Lahore and Pakistan is the most ancient part of the civilization of India. It's the Indus civilization. This is where the old Vedas were written, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the great stories are coming from this. And here on this image, you see Ramayana in the middle with this blue skin. Many times the avatars, or the gods or the semi-gods, had a blue skin, like Shiva, Rama, and his wife Sita, and a half-brother. And I think all these stories are kind of symbols or metaphors for the divine powers we all have. So that's why they are so interesting. It's not only historical or mythological story. You have to incorporate them. You have to become the gods. You have to become Rama. You have to become Sita or Shiva. And then you start to understand your relationship to that divine energy.
Yeah, that you have these forces of creation and of destruction.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll see a picture later on, I don't know, about the Indus Valley. So our civilization also here it is indeed. So the Indus Valley is known to be the cradle of our own civilization, Indo-European. So we also had contact in the mind, of course, with these blue people that originally created that civilization. So as we are on the verge of creating a new world, new civilization, new ideas, it's interesting to connect with them because they did the same as we are supposed to do now.
It's the old source. If you have a look then at this map, you see a little bit how northern India is placed. On the left corner, left upper corner, you see Pakistan and the Indus Valley. Then next to that, you see Ladakh and Leh. That's our aim. That's where we needed to be on the 4th of March for Shivaratri. And that's also the start of the whole Himalaya range. All these mountains that go on into Nepal, Bhutan, and that is the division between India and Tibet. Now, in the right next corner, it says Tibet and between brackets China. Sometimes they only say now China, but I still like to call it Tibet because I think it is Tibet, but it's been conquered by China. So let's keep that clear. Google has already changed that into China, and I don't like that companies kind of,
because it has a very specific energy.
Yeah.
And we like to keep that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think those countries or those people, we'll talk about it because we went.
After, yeah, we got our luggage back.
We got our luggage back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we went to Dharamsala, which is the city where the Tibetans flew to.
Yeah. Yeah. After China conquered Tibet some 70 years ago, if I'm right, the Dalai Lama went into hiding in India, in this village, Dharamsala, and many Tibetans were traveling with them. It was a disaster. I've once read a book of a woman, it's a book called The Woman Who Still Knows. She wrote how that worked when the Chinese came and invaded. It was a slaughter. Really, it was so atrocious, and they were killing the monks, they were ruining the monasteries. It was really very, very awkward. And I think sometimes we tend to forget that. We think, okay, Tibet's now part of China, but it's still, there's this kind of genocide happening, this cultural genocide, because religion is forbidden, the Dalai Lama is forbidden, you're not allowed to have a flag or a photo of the Dalai Lama. So it's really very tough on the Tibetans. But they're still surviving in Dharamsala.
Yeah. Beautiful place in the mountains where we were. And the beautiful thing was that the Dalai Lama was there.
He was at home.
He was at home at that time. And we stayed in a very beautiful hotel near that place. In the mountains, and we decided to visit the temple before. He wasn't there at that exact moment. We went to the empty temple, and we had a quite interesting feeling there, huh?
I think many things at that day happened at the same time, because one thing was that we went into the temple and I had a very strong initiation. In a very short time, I was sitting in front of the Green Tara, which is one of these goddesses. And suddenly I got this, I saw this ancient lineage of Tibetan Buddhism, and I had to recite all kinds of prayers and lines and verses. I had no clue what was happening to me, basically, but I felt a deep initiation into that culture. And the last part of the initiation was the Dalai Lama telling me, you're gonna sit on my chair. And I thought, no way, that's not what I'm supposed to do. And he said, just do it. In this kind of funny way of talking. I thought, okay, probably I have to take my place. I have to take my throne and my own authority. So that line of when you meet the Buddha on the road, you have to kill him. I think that's what he taught me. Don't put me on the pedestal. Go sit on your own throne.
And that's probably the message we all get. these days,
Yeah.
that we tend to look at somebody else who will do it better, who's greater, who's bigger. And in fact, we have to point at ourselves and say, what am I gonna do? What is my task to do? And that's a lesson we got there. We can say that in AMRITSAR, we were in the 2nd and 3rd chakra, the beauty of the goddess, but also the strife of the 3rd of the power with the war theme. And then that we were invited here to go into the heart in DHARAMSALA. But in the meantime,
war broke out.
War broke out. Really?
Yeah, India had strike back at Pakistan. There were some bombings, some explosions. It was big on the news. Everybody was scared, and we said, wow, we cannot go further because the war was exactly on our path towards Srinagar, towards Kashmir. So we were kind of stuck in Dharamsala, and that was nice because the next day the Dalai Lama had a big meditation. Yeah, in fact, we were in a big dilemma at that moment, because on the one hand we had Roxanne, who was with us, one of the 5 companions. She was ill, and there was this war that broke out, and everyone in the touristic shop there, that center, they told us, don't go, don't move, it's too dangerous, you want to go to Srinagar? No, not possible. Everyone was trying to keep us home and safe, and it was very tempting to stay. And then we could see the Dalai Lama next morning live, which was like, it was nice. It was beautiful.
But if we would do so, we would certainly miss our flight in Jammu. Because we had a flight in Jammu and we had a flight in Srinagar, and then we would get to Ladakh
on the 4th of March.
Before the 4th of March. And so we had to follow our traveling scheme. And if we stayed, because of the war and because of Dalai Lama, we would miss the connections. So dilemma.
A dilemma. And then we said, okay, let's sit down in the evening. I remember that evening very well. And we took a tarot card. And the tarot card we took was the moon. And the card said very clearly, there are 2 options, but there's a narrow, very narrow path in between. And you have to take the narrow path. And it's going to be very challenging. And
it's an initiation.
It's an initiation road. And we still remember that we made the decision, the 5 of us, we have to move through the war area. It doesn't matter, we are protected, but we have to make our journey.
And the beautiful thing was that the 5 of us decided it together. Even Roxanne, who was ill, felt like we have to do this. This is what we should do. And so that's what we did. And in fact, this choice is something you can find in other situations of war, that you can or freeze and stay in your own state of mind, or go into fear, or you go into that courage and you follow your heart and you just do what you feel you have to do.
So here you see the Dalai Lama. I think he's one of my heroes, just like Nelson Mandela. He's always looking at this way of the world of friendliness. He once said, my religion is kindness. And somehow he's still being chased and hated by the Chinese government because he is standing in example for this principle of the heart, and so much connected to this Tibetan Buddhist tradition. But he became actually much more of an example for the world.
And also exemplary for the way we would go, because we could go either to the left, to the right, we could go back to Delhi, we could stay, but we chose the path of the heart, the middle way, which is a narrow path, an initiation path, has its dangers. But if you trust and you ask Kali to help you, you can move forward.
And it brought us closer to the war conflict, because we had to take our plane from Jammu, and Jammu is right on the border with Pakistan. And we saw all these kind of images on the news, people fighting, fire,
bombs, airplanes.
And then when I looked further on the news, I saw that all these images on the news were manipulated. They were made. You didn't see real rockets flying and bombs falling. It was just an animation of it. I thought, wow, how weird that I didn't see that before, that it's all been made up in a way.
It's like propaganda.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a story made. It was happening at that time.
It was happening.
But
it was scary.
Yeah.
But not that scary.
Probably it was made bigger.
Yeah.
By the media.
It wasn't Bollywood, or it was made into a Bollywood series. Anyway, we came to Jammu and our flight was cancelled.
Before our very eyes.
Yeah, we were waiting there and then we couldn't go further. We had to take a hotel and we found another secret path that led us through the mountains. We took a taxi. And we knew there was a road. It was a dangerous road because it was very difficult to travel from Jammu to the north into the Himalayas, to Srinagar.
Basically, that's why they all fly. It's because it's, especially in the winter, it's a very, very tricky road. And in fact, only the locals take it, the local people, the ones that cannot fly, but tourists never fly. No. Never go on the road. So it was quite challenging. Yeah.
And in the meantime, we still had to deal with the war talk, everything that they said, don't go there. And I think that reminds me a little bit of what's happening at the moment in Ukraine between Russia and America, that this war talk, this war drumming is happening, that people say, oh, it's dangerous and this is happening. And basically it's what you see is this pattern of men, of patriarchal leaders that want to assert themselves and say, I'm the biggest, now I'm the biggest. And actually they fight their wars mostly in other countries. So America has fought many, many wars, but never on their own territory, always somewhere else. And Russia is probably doing the same. And now they want to fight this war of who has the biggest one in the Ukraine. So
I remember when we were in the airport of Jammu, where we were waiting whether our flight will still be going, we prayed also. We had this meditation on how can we create a world where there is no war. It seems like such an idealism, but I was very much connected to that goddess of creation, Saraswati, at that moment, I remember, and really praying for a new kind of humanity without this imprint of the war, instead collaboration and a win-win instead of win-lose situation. So it's such an imprint we really have to dissolve. And our trip that was part of the trip. To work on that theme. How can we dissolve this imprint?
It actually always, when we make a journey, it's both an inner journey and an outer journey. So we weave them together and we feel inside what is needed in us or to change, to go through this narrow doorway, this narrow path. What does it mean for us ourselves? At the same time, we were driving on this path and it was really difficult because it was blocked with hundreds, thousands of trucks. They were all waiting or to go from Srinagar to India or the other way around. And because of a war, it was all impossible. So they were waiting there.
At both sides of the tunnel, in fact, both sides of the mountain, they were waiting. But in fact, before leaving, we went to a temple. Well, we first found a taxi man, a cabman, who was willing to take this rather dangerous trip with us, because in fact, as tourists, we were not allowed to go to Srinagar. No. We were not allowed. So he asked us, don't talk about it. Say we will go somewhere in between, but don't talk about Srinagar. I will take you there. And before leaving, he went to a temple, Kali temple, to have a little prayer. And we knew afterwards why, because it was a quite dangerous road we were heading to. And next to that temple of Kali, there was this image of the snakes.
And that brought us into a complete different story, because in the morning when we had done the meditation, we saw the snakes coming, and they are called the Nagas. And Srinagar is the city of the Lord of the Nagas, and who is also the Lord of the Nagas, Shiva. So many things were coming together, and we thought, what does it really mean, these Nagas? What are they? Where are they coming from what time? And we got this message. I remember this channeling of the Queen of the Nagas, talking about how they helped in former times humanity to
create and dissolve. That's why they were loved and hated at the same time. They were the ones that created, but also that had to destroy what had to be destroyed. So in fact, the same powers as Shiva has. And they were inviting us. They were in fact telling us that we were entering a very sacred domain.
Yeah.
And they were the keepers of that domain. They were the entrance keepers of a sacred place we were invited into.
The sacred valley of Kashmir.
The sacred valley of Kashmir. And so it was complete new information.
Yeah.
It really was quite surprising, like, okay, we're getting in touch with the Nagas.
Yeah. So we drove halfway the mountain range, and we came to a hotel on top of the mountains at the entrance of Kashmir.
Patni Top.
Patni Top.
Yeah, in the middle of the mountains.
Yeah.
We had to spend the night.
Surprisingly, there was a Naga temple.
Yeah.
Very amazing, a little temple, small temple, but dedicated to the snakes.
And so, in fact, the Nagas came upon us the day before. We didn't know them. We were quite surprised. Then we arrived in that hotel. It was in the Naga street, I remember. So we said, oh my God, the Nagas are really here. And a few steps away, we found this Naga temple. So we were really guided by the Nagas in this dangerous moon trip.
And we didn't have any connection anymore. Wi-Fi was down. There was no telephone connection. So people started to worry at home about us. We were in war area, no connection, somewhere in the mountains, and they knew we were going through this narrow passageway into Kashmir.
And I remember a friend, Tineke, who prayed with many people together to help us to hold the space for this trip. Yeah.
So the next day we went on, and here you see an image of the journey. It was really scary journey. All these trucks and all these cars just very closely passing each other on a very narrow road. Sometimes the road was just completely gone because it had been flushed down by mud and by rocks.
Yes,
so it was scary.
Here you can see the state of the roads, and this is quite safe because it's in a valley, but we have been driving along abysses, and it was really, really scary at certain times. You could have a flat tire, you could fall off. There were little small narrow roads where two cars tried to pass each other, even three cars. So we really had to trust, stay into our hearts, and really trust our wonderful cabman, taxi man. Yeah.
And this is the initiation of the moon. It's dangerous. It's scary. It is. You don't know if you come out on the other side. It's like a birthing channel.
It can be life or death.
Life or death. Yeah. But we came out on the other side in Srinagar, and the first thing we heard, the war is over.
Yeah.
They have an agreement. They stopped it. We got in contact with Tineke at home. They were all happy to hear our voice.
It was an enormous relief, enormous relief. So we had been praying for the war to go out of men, and at the other side, the war was over. So that was very, very beautiful. And we were situated in this beautiful hotel at the foot of a little mountain. And we heard that on that mountain was the temple of Shiva.
Yeah, a very ancient temple. Here you see it. It was built by the originator of the Advaita Vedanta, Shankaracharya. And he's from ages past, and he started this way of thinking of non-duality. So not this nor that. It's a very interesting concept in Indian religion, Indian spirituality. He says it's about the person that is looking into the world. It's the eye who looks. And all the other things that you see in the world, that's just illusion. It's all part of, yeah, of the outer world, but you have to go to the eye, to yourself, and to become the observer of the world. Don't interfere with the world, observe it. Mm-hmm. So this is one of the places where that non-duality or Advaita Vedanta originated.
And that temple was very well kept by the military. So
Yeah.
the whole mountain was kept by the military, by the soldiers. And so we could feel it was a very special energetic mountain and temple. And they must somehow have known also. So yeah. The Indians want to keep it in their hands, and it's very, very well protected. And we were there on the 3rd of March, because of all our adventures, we had lost time.
Yeah.
And we were in Srinagar. We had lost our plane, of course. We had lost the connection.
Yeah.
But we arrived there the day before Shivaratri.
Yeah.
And we decided, well, or 2 days before Shivaratri, and the next day we decided in the morning to go visit that temple.
Yeah.
Because the day after, at Shivaratri, it would be flooded by people.
Yeah, and then another stage happened in our journey, which was really amazing, because we checked if there was another flight going towards Ladakh, where we had to be the next day, but there was no flight for a month. It was all sold out. We couldn't go from Srinagar to Ladakh, also not by road, not by airplane. And we thought, gee, we're stuck here. There's only one day to go. What do we do? And we made an amazing move. We flew back to Delhi. We said, okay, let's go back to Delhi. Maybe there is a flight from Delhi to Ladakh.
Before that, we opened the gate of
Yeah.
the Shiva temple.
Yeah, definitely.
We forgot that.
Yeah.
So we went to that Shiva temple because we had an assignment there.
Yeah.
We heard before our travel started to India, we heard you have to go to Srinagar because there you can open the gate towards Ladakh, towards the Himalayas.
Yeah.
So you have to do something there. That's why we so desperately wanted to be in Srinagar.
Yeah.
And we did everything we could to get there through the mountains because we had to be there. And we found on the place, we didn't know that before, we found that temple. We went up that hill. We entered that little temple. We were all alone with a priest, and we did a ceremony in the temple.
Yeah.
And next to it was the grave or some place of Shankaracharya.
Yeah.
Next to the temple. And there we felt this big opening.
Yeah.
Something was really opening for us. So we went into what do you call it?
Another state of consciousness.
Yeah,
or...
yeah, and surrender. That's what I was looking for. We surrendered to the path, and there this gate was opened. So we knew now. In fact, we are allowed to go into.
To go further,
and we can go into Ladakh. But how?
Yeah. So
there were no flights. Roxanne and Astrid were looking for flights all over the internet, couldn't find anything, not even close, only a month later or something. So the only decision we could make is we have to really go back to the beginning, back to Delhi.
Go back to the dirt and the craziness. And we came into a hotel late in the evening. And we checked on the airport, like, is there a flight next morning towards Ladakh? And also there we got the message, there's no way you can get into Ladakh.
Not before 1 month, they said.
It's completely
no
fully
possibility.
booked.
Yeah.
So we were stuck in Delhi.
Back in the base camp, so back in Chakra 1.
Yeah.
And that's also one of the lessons we learned. So you can get very close, you have to pass the initiation.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you get a new challenge. Are you able to bring what you learned, your spiritual knowledge, are you able to bring it back to the base, to where you start to doubt again? And you really have to bring that faith back again to the body, to the normal life and the first chakra.
It's a bit like Monopoly. Go back to start. You don't earn anything. You lose money, and you are back at the beginning.
Yeah. Are you able to keep that confidence and that surrender, even if it looks like a big failure?
Now I showed you the picture of this food because always when I'm in crisis, I think first eat. Eating helps to make you feel comfortable, and then you can think. And while we were eating, we were having dinner very late at 11 o'clock or 12. We got a phone call from a friend, Marcel. In Holland. Yeah. And he said, Ton, you won't believe it, but I found 5 tickets tomorrow morning early from Delhi to Ladakh.
9 o'clock, get on that plane, you have 5 tickets.
Yes.
That was wonderful, wonderful. It was a miracle.
It was a miracle, definitely, because we had tried so much, and then suddenly from another source comes the help from our friends. The help comes, and this is us reaching Leh, the capital of Ladakh, on March 4th, Shivaratri, and we were extremely happy.
Yeah,
it's a high country; it's 3,500 meters high, so you have altitude problems. And when we came to the hotel, we met this Indian lady, Sujata, and she was very stern with us. And she said, you have to stay in bed for 2 days, drink a lot of water, like 3-4 liters of water. And you are not allowed to walk, because otherwise you will end up in a hospital because you're not used to the altitude.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, in fact, in our original plan, we had few days, 5 days or so in Ladakh, but because we lost time, we only had 2 or 3 days over, and 2 of them we had to spend in our bed. But we surrendered again, and you had a very, very strong moment there, huh?
Yeah, that's, I think, the end of the. Here you see the image of Ladakh. You can see and feel the energy of it. It's a very opening world. You're in the middle of the Himalayas. There's nothing in between, and you can get in contact with these divine energies. And I had this during a meditation. I think it was. I saw me going into the mountains, and there was this bell. And I rang the bell, and it was like a symbolic thing. I had to ring the bell for the Buddha Maitreya, the Buddha of the future, the Shiva, the divine energies, to ask for help us, because we're getting more and more into a crisis in the world today.
That was a very, very big moment, huh?
Yeah.
In fact, that is the culmination of the whole trip. We feel that we had to go through this whole initiation to be able to ring that bell and to wake up all warriors. That was, in fact, the invitation. Yeah.
Here you see kind of a prayer wheel in one of the temples
in Ladakh.
LA. And this is the image that is being kept in many temples in Ladakh, of the Buddha Maitreya. And it is a sort of, the Buddha Maitreya, it means the Buddha of the future. And it says that in every time, in every age, there is an avatar. You can call him the Messiah, the Messias, the Mahdi in Islam, Quetzalcoatl in South America. But it's all that same image of a savior that's coming to the world, and that is not ruling from war or from the mind, but is really opening the heart to all of humankind, to all of humanity, to unite and to step into the next phase of evolution.
Yeah, in fact, that was the main message we received during our travelings to India, is that we cannot solve the actual problems by thinking and by the mind and by continuing on doing what we're doing now, or create solutions in the way we think we thought of the problems, in fact. So we really have to move to a broader consciousness, to go into that initiation in ourselves, the path of the heart, open and brighten up our vision, which happened in Ladakh. You could see on this picture, this area of the mountains with the snow is so pure. It has such a high energy. It's there that the masters met. in the energy. In Indian culture, all the masters meet there. And we could also feel, in fact, that we are invited to do the same change in ourselves, to make this same transformation, to be able to find solutions for the times ahead.
Yeah. So we're coming slowly to the end of our journey here, all the way from Delhi, Amritsar, Dharamsala, Srinagar to Ladakh. And just what you said, we want to practice this, this journeying from the heart, connecting the earthly, the mundane towards the divine. And how can we bring that together? How can we combine it all?
And how can we wake up the warrior in ourselves? Not the soldier, not the one that wants to have wars for the wrong reasons, but the warrior who is fighting or coming up for the earth, for humanity, for a future. We feel that's a theme that will join us this year. The warrior is very much awake. Yeah.
So if you would like to follow us, we made this website, connecting the dots.eu. You cannot see it here, but connecting the dots, we'll put it on the link here. And join the community, and we'll share more of these messages. We will also do meditations on Zoom. One of the meditations is going to be on March the 3rd, probably about the war that's happening between Russia and America.
But it's linked to this story, to our Indian initiation.
And also on this website, you can find all the messages that we got, all the channelings in India.
Quite a lot, very interesting, surprising.
Yeah, it's really beautiful information that you can use. So it's all for free. Go and have a look.
And before ending, we would so much like to thank our companions, Astrid and Roxanne and Christian, who went this crazy, crazy journey with us and were so courageous and loyal and put pieces of the puzzle, and together we really made it happen.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot.
So thank you for listening, and hope to see you on the next journey.
And on the 3rd of March.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.